Well, I'm here with the one and only Judit Polgar. Judith, it's a pleasure to have you. And you have just completed the Global Chess Festival. How are you feeling?
Hi everyone. I feel very good. We are over with the festival, just few days past, still tired and try to recover. But it was very much an amazing event. At the National Gallery, we had more than 4,000 visitors during the day. And also
Wow.
after that, we had for the first time, we had a separate day, the day after on Sunday for the online event, where we had the Educational Chess Summit where we aim to spread the benefits of chess in education and why it should be part of in every institute in one way or another. And in the evening, we had some fun activity, the first chess triathlon online event, which was great fun commentating it with Tanya.
Yeah, I was following a lot of it from here. This is the 17th year of the festival.
Yeah, basically, we started out 17 years ago with an afternoon event, and the names were changing continuously from Polgar Chess Day to Polgar Chess Festival. And then later on, it became 9 years ago. We started to call it with a little different concept, the Global Chess Festival.
I have a few pictures here which I want to see them with you. This is one of them. What a beautiful picture this is. Was this at the Simul which you did?
Yes, actually, this year we a little bit enlarged the simultaneous exhibition to 31 boards. And it was very unique because 29 individuals were playing and two communities. One was of community of Alessia Santeramo, and the other one it was you, ChessBase India,
Yes.
with in leadership Tanya, as she was with us this year.
We had an amazing time there, and I know there's Tanya on the side where we sat, and you were moving around so quickly on those 30 boards. So it was very nice playing with you. But it's there's so much that happens, and it's such a nice way to sort of introduce the game of chess to young kids, right? This festival.
Yes, basically we emphasize and put a lot of focus on the kids, showing the Judith Polgar educational method. Here you see on the big chess rug, we are doing physical exercises with kids as the chessboard is useful in
Yeah,
small
yeah,
and
yeah.
big. This was
Yes.
yeah, in the next picture, we see the chess tournament, which we had at the dome of the building, very beautiful, 100 participants with quite a lot of girls and children, but it was for all ages. We were in support with the European Chess Union, and here we were focusing to inspire more girls to compete.
Wow, wow. And also there's always this thing, no, with the huge board, and there's one team with all the and all the personalities who have been invited to the festival. They play against each other on the giant chessboard.
Yes, actually, this kind of fun game we were doing up to this year only at the after party with our special guests. But this year we decided to bring it out to the big audience already to the National Gallery. And this was one of the reasons why Tanya was invited here. It was two teams on one side. It was Tanya, myself, and inviting other chess personalities to comment and make some
Wow.
decisions or ideas. And on the other side, it was Alessia Santeramo with Ivanchuk playing on the other side, also including some of the grandmasters from Hungary, Berkes and Gabor Pap. On the other side, it was David Havel and Miguel Iescas. So we had quite a lot of fun with this game. The main idea was of this game to show the decision-making process of a chess player, that there are critical moments, or we think it's critical moment, and you can go exchanging the dark square bishop, let's say, or just to go without exchanging it. So how these parts and the focus points change the game or goes into a different direction. As decision making was the focus of this year's festival.
Right, right. Decision making was the main theme, and also Ivanchuk was there, and that's I think a very nice thing, right? To have Ivanchuk. Everyone loves him as a chess player, and to have him there would have been very nice.
Yes, of course, it was very special for us also that Vasily was part of the event this year, as he's truly a legend.
Yes.
And here, actually, he was playing in one of our side event programs was Dragon Chess.
I can see the dragon there. It looks like a knight, but actually it's not. It's a dragon.
Exactly. So the main point is of this game that you have all these 32 pieces on the board in the starting position. But once you start developing, you have each of you, black and white side, has a dragon. So you can enter to the chessboard only on the first rank. And after that, when you play with it, it has the power of the knight and the bishop at the same time. So Miguel Iescas was making the demonstration as he's a big fan of this game. And Ivanchuk, after the other game which we showed on the picture with Tanya and Alessia, he went on to test himself also out this game.
Wonderful. And one thing which is becoming a big part of this festival is the chess artistry. And I think this is something which you have been very, very sort of backing it, and you would like a lot of things to be done on this front. Can you tell us a bit about chess artistry, how it began, and what has happened this year?
Basically, I started to develop this program 3 years ago as my coach and a nice friend, Paul Banco, was passing away, and I wanted to make a contribution and a memory in his legacy, basically. He was a fantastic chess player himself, playing and competing in times when Bobby Fischer was a teenager. Yes. And actually, he was the person who gave the opportunity. He qualified back in the 60s, and Bobby did not qualify. So he gave his spot.
Yes.
And this is not so many people can think this way. I believe that you go and you give the paved road and the opportunity which is yours, you transfer it to the other one. So this was something very special memory, that he was such a person that he had his beliefs, and then he was living in that spirit.
Wow.
And so I wanted to make a tribute to him, because he was not only a fantastic chess player himself, but also a composer. And he did a lot of compositions which was based on a practical game, which was played, let's say. So I learned a lot when I was a kid from his studies. Usually it was very frustrating, to be honest, because he did such a complex studies, and so difficult. He was always teasing me with that. Come on, it's so easy. It's only a few pieces on the board. Come on, it's draw. It's like nothing. And he really had this very big passion for it, and also great understanding and great depths of his studies. And I loved studies myself, and I up to today believe that my chess, with my creativity, my fighting spirit, my artistic vision in chess, because I think I did, it came from him in big part. And that's why I decided to make a competition in the first year with inviting the best composers, chess composers. And later on, I decided not to have a competition, but from year 2, and this is year 3, I just invited people that if they want to contribute, they can send it. We are not going to judging them, but we are just going to be very appreciated by them, that they also contribute to something like this.
Beautiful. This was last year, right? This painting was done, and what you do every year is you have Maria Yugina, who's a chess artist, who makes this painting where all the positions are shown. And this year she has come up with this painting, right, with all the studies and compositions that are there.
Yes, and I have to tell you the truth that unfortunately we don't have all the studies there, because usually she was doing a smaller painting, like 40 times 60 centimeter. And I told her that, well, maybe it's better if it's bigger. So this is 80 times 80 centimeters. So it's quite big. But I didn't know how many studies I'm going to be receiving, because, of course, before the Global Chess Festival, several months, I sent out the invitation to the composers. but I don't know how many people will send me, right? So I said, okay, we have 15 spots or 16, fine. But then, I got more and more and more and more. So actually, I got more than 25 studies from more than 30 composers, because some of them are composition with two persons. And then she was like making it on different spots. And I said, okay, I have one more. I have one more. So actually, eventually, you can see not only on the red spots that we have
Also on the carpet below.
but also on the carpet a little bit. Yeah, so she squeezed in, it's 21 on the painting, and unfortunately, not all of them
So
fitted.
totally there are 25 this year that are there, and 21,
26, I believe.
26, 20.
Yes.
Wow, that is amazing. And each one is unique, right? It's the first time they are ever published. And they sent it for the first time at the Global Chess Festival.
Yes, it should be the case. And also the idea behind the Chess Artistry adventure, that I also believe that these artists are making really great work, and some of them really amazing. I mean, for those who play chess to a certain level, maybe 1600 players or 1700, you can already enjoy it quite a bit. And I also want to uplift the composers, that people appreciate their artwork much more than they do right now.
Right. No, I had a lot of fun last year when I went through those puzzles with all the top players, many of the young talents as well. And this year I intend to do the same, but it's amazing that we are doing it first. So I know which ones are your favorites, or you like them the most. So what is your criteria of selecting a good study for you?
Well, first of all, one of the criteria which I write to the invitation, in the invitation, that I appreciate even more a study if you have an inspirational game to it.
Right.
So if there is a pattern which was recognized in a practical game between Magnus Carlsen or Anand or whoever, it can be a weaker player. But I want to show it also to people with this, that in practical game, you do have a lot of connection to solve problems. And if top players, they solve problems, or anybody, it will be beneficial also in a tournament game, or it can be. So my criteria, it's very difficult because I don't want to judge on anybody. And I know that I don't have all the time to show all the studies, but I picked several ones which I liked, for the reason because it had an inspirational game also. This is important. And also because I think it's either extremely beautiful and I want to share it, or it's very practical from that aspect. But still, I want to highlight that there are more which are I like very much also. So generally, I always want to emphasize that whoever does a quality, very high quality endgame with a lot of different themes and ideas in it, I really appreciate them.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So Judith, should we go to the first position?
Let's go.
Okay. So the first one is the one by Gurganidze, right? And this is the study, and its inspirational game is from Carlsen versus Nepo. So here the aim is white to play and win. So if you would like to, all those who are watching, if you'd like to pause the video and think, please do so right now. And Judith, why did you choose this one? Let's go.
Well, I like this one very much because if you look at this position, it's a very practical position. It could rise in a tournament game very easily, in a blitz game very easily. And at first it seems like, well, black has a queen up with a pass pawn on e3 and e4. So basically, if you look at it, you just instantly think that black is winning.
Right.
But of course, in chess, there's one thing that what your instinct says at first sight, another thing that we can go into the concrete elements. So in this study, I would like to say that, for example, when you solve a study, and if you have a practice in solving studies, you get the idea very quickly in some way. So, for example, in this position, who is not an experienced study solver, it means that in such a position, you understand that if black to move, the game is over. So you have to give check.
Right.
if you have to give a check, there is two options, either to go bishop c8 or bishop c4, right?
Right.
So you have to be very quickly discovering what is the difference. But let's say bishop c8, then black goes king e5. And then if rook a5, then black goes king d4.
Mm.
And you see that, well, I have a check on a4, I can play c3, but somehow I have no coordination between my pieces.
Correct.
So very quickly, if somebody is an experienced solver, they say, okay, let's see bishop c4.
Right.
Black cannot go on the 6th rank to king f6 because rook a6. So
True.
that's fine. That's very clear.
Done.
So black goes king e5.
Yes.
And it gets very forcing because, again, you have to go rook a5 check. And wow, king d4 is not possible because of rook d5, winning the queen. And after takes,
Oops, sorry.
white, takes on d5, white can push the pawn g5. And the two pass pawn on the g and the c, the two together is something that the black king cannot catch.
Correct.
So it seems to be very easy so far, but it's not exactly so simple because black can go king f4, right?
Right.
And now the g4 pawn is attacked. So rook f5 would be such a great check and checkmate.
It would be
if
mate.
if the g4 pawn would not be attacked.
Right.
So in this case, and also queen d2 check is threatening, but there is one move which can cover both.
Right.
Which is bishop e2.
Beautiful. Okay. Now rook f5 is a mating idea.
So now how great it is we covered the second rank. Queen d2 is not possible. The pawn on g4 defended. So wow, we won the game, right? But the reason I really like chess studies, and I think this is what I improved a lot during the years from my childhood, how to defend.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to learn defense, just solve problems, because there for sure you will have points. A good study means that there is a great and unexpected defense.
Right. And so here, not only do you have to find bishop e2, many people are very happy when they find this. You have to find a defense for black now, which is tricky because there could be stalemate ideas.
So what is the only way of defending for black? By bishop e2 was played, now the e3 pawn cannot be pushed, so
Yes.
the king cannot move. So if black could get rid of the queen, then he could save the position. So there is not much option for that. I think queen c5 is the best.
Hmm.
So to control the 5th rank, right? To stop the rook from being able to go to f5.
This is a draw, yes. So now white has to figure a way.
Yes, and in study also, this is why I like to give for youngsters also studies, because, you know, I remember my son also when I was giving some mathematics to him or something, and then he was so easily saying that it's impossible, there is no solution. And in a chess study, you know exactly like in mathematics that there is a solution, there is a perfect way of the only moves which makes it work. So in this position, I would suggest the audience to pause for a little bit and maybe to think what can white do in order to keep the tension and make the game going. So after they thought, they say, wow, I have it. I win in one move. How great is bishop on e2? It's not only defending my pawn on g4, but I go rook b5. And of course, in chess, Zugzwang is a very important element of the game. Right. And now we say, wow, fantastic, we won the game. Very proud. Okay, this was it, right? But black still has something to play for. And there is not much of an option. Basically, there is only one move. And the same idea, keeping in mind that white cannot take the queen because it's a stalemate.
Right.
So black goes queen d5.
We could follow it, right? Rook c5, but maybe...
Well, the problem is rook c5 would work if, let's say, we would have a pawn on b4.
Sorry, just take it, right.
But we don't have a pawn on b4, and the rook would be not protected. So far, so good. But the problem is what to do now. For example, now you can have an idea that I'm going to be clever, and I go king h3. So let's see what on king h3. What is the defense?
Because I'm anyway wanting to give the queen, so I can just give it up, yes? with a check.
But in this position, actually, one of the move of defense is queen h5 check, for example.
Yes.
At the same time, I can tell you that queen h5, but in this position, we shouldn't be panicking. We just simply realize that we cannot capture the queen with the pawn in order for the rook to win the game. But white can just go back to g2, admitting that I did not do anything progressing in the position. So black goes back to d5.
But now there is queen h2 and there can be...
Already queen h2, sorry.
yeah.
Yes.
So
Sorry.
king h3 might be already wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that one. But, okay, so white cannot go king h3. But what can white do?
c4 seems like a natural move here.
Yes, c4 seems to be a natural move, so please make c4. But the problem is that after c4, black still has an opportunity to go back to c5.
Ooh.
And this position is a mutual Zugzwang.
So it means that white to play, he doesn't have a move at all, which helps him.
Exactly.
And black to play would also lose this position.
Yes.
Ah.
Exactly. So knowing this, we go back one move. And after posing and solving, we discover that c3 is the winning move.
Beautiful.
And only after queen c5, white goes c4. And
it's
now
a
there's
forced mate.
nothing to do.
Yeah. Now rook f5 cannot be stopped. And this is over.
And of course, black can still say that, okay, I can still play queen h5. But the problem after queen h5 that white is not going to be taking on h5, but plays rook f5 check and forcing black to capture. And now it's not a stalemate, but white has this powerful c4 pawn, which is going to be queening.
Beautiful. There's a very nice theme of Zugzwang that came in with this move c3 and c4, right?
Yes, I loved the theme of Zugzwang when I was a kid. And of course, now I also still like it.
Beautiful. And this study by Gurganidze was inspired by Carlsen and Nepo game. And I think Gurganidze is very well known for his stalemating tricks. I think his studies are well known for that.
Maybe, but he's a very good composer.
Yeah, very good.
He can work the ideas out in a very beautiful way.
Correct. Okay, so the game from which it is inspired is this one, right? Carlsen Nepo.
Yeah, if you can just go to move further, move 48.
So here, rook c5.
Yes. Black pushed e5, and then rook c6.
Ah, this one, okay.
And black was not paying attention, and after king g3 is checkmate.
Wow. I remember seeing this game, but I would never imagine that a study could be made so beautifully out of it. So
yes.
Very nice work there. Okay.
And actually, Gurganidze sent us another 2 versions of this with other details. So those are also very beautiful, but with exactly the same checkmate patterns.
Very cool. Focus. So let's go to the second one. This one is by Martin Minsky, another wonderful composer. And he did this inspired from the game of Anand and Carlsen from the Global Chess League.
Well, I think that game was seen by many, tens of thousands or maybe hundreds of thousands of people.
Yes.
I was also watching it live.
Okay.
And it was great fun. And I remember your commentary. You were also very enthusiastic. The queen and what's going on. And
we couldn't understand what was going on, who was playing. Even Vishy and Magnus couldn't understand during the game. They both smiled at each other.
Yeah. I remember that game very well.
Yeah.
So that game was the inspiration to Minsky to make this one. This game seems to be, I liked very much that he was using that game as an inspiration. This is also a position which could happen in a tournament game.
Right. But it's
But
very
it's not
complicated.
complicated.
Yeah, it's
It's
like
complicated.
too many things
Exactly.
happening. White pawns are about to queen. Black pawn is also
Exactly.
about to queen. So it's white to play and win.
Exactly. So there are several ideas to start with. For example, if knight f5, black has to be going king f8.
Right.
And it's just problematic for white.
True.
So let's go back. The first move is e7.
Mm-hmm.
Knight e7.
You have to take, otherwise it queens.
You have to take it because otherwise it's problematic. So the thing is now already, if something very nice happens, king e7 would be not good. Because of knight d5,
Okay.
knight d5, and after knight d5, bishop b4 check.
Ooh, nice.
And something really bad happens to white.
Because take and you queen
check.
with a check and you take the knight and then you stop the queen.
Exactly.
Very nice.
Okay, so this is not possible, and this is something I like to say to amateur players also, that when they capture something and the most natural thing is to capture it back, think for a second, because it's not all the time that that's the best move. Many times during the game, you have an intermediate check or some other opportunity, so it's not always the best to capture back immediately. So the winning move is king e8.
Wow. So now you're threatening to queen.
Now you're threatening to queen.
Knight
Black
G6.
goes knight g6.
Only move, yeah.
Only move to stop the pawn from becoming a queen. And now f5.
f5 to kick the knight away. Okay.
Now there is not much option for black, though knight c6 could be something to consider, with the idea if white captures the knight on g6, then bishop b4.
Wow.
White can go bishop g3, but simply king g6. So the idea is very important that the black bishop stops and covers the f8 square. So this would not be the best move for.
I mean knight c6 if.
No. After knight c6, sorry. So fg is not good. Bishop
right.
d6.
Ooh.
This is the key move.
Stopping the bishop on that diagonal. Yeah, okay.
Not to allow black to cover the pawn on from bishop b4. So bishop d6 and game is over.
Right.
So this is the reason why black should be going knight f8. There is no other way or other square for black to go because it has to stop the pawn from promotion. So bishop e5 check, very logical to push away the king. The king goes to h6. The thing is that after king h7, interestingly enough, well, king f8 is the simplest, but also knight g2 wins. So king h6.
Okay.
King takes f8. So now if black is not paying attention, then simply king g8 and checkmate.
Queen, yes.
So if black would be playing knight c6, I believe anyway bishop d6 would be the move.
Yeah.
I think. So black plays after king h6, king f8. There is a very nice defensive move.
You can move the bishop and try to make your own queen, but where exactly? You maybe bishop h4, bishop e7 could be an idea.
If bishop h4, then I think knight g2 would be the move.
Okay. Yeah, this could be just right.
Knight g2. So there is an interesting defense for black.
Okay.
And it is knight d5.
King.
And right now, knight d5 is the move because if king g8.
Yeah. Again, the bishop will come to this diagonal, so we don't want it.
Bishop b4, and if knight takes d5, then e1.
Right.
And if knight b4, then queen e5. And the problem is that after queening, king g5 and white is losing the f5 pawn.
Wow.
So after knight d5, white captures knight takes d5. Bishop b4 check.
Okay.
knight takes b4, e1, and knight c6. So white has two pieces for the queen, but an extremely powerful f7 pawn.
Now I understand why this is similar to Magnus Vichy, because that was the same material balance. Queen versus two minor pieces and a pawn there.
Exactly. Exactly. So now there is a very interesting line, which is pretty complicated because black has several moves. Queen e4 is one of the options to play,
Right.
but it's not the best defense. But if after queen e4, white can go king e7, black captures the knight on c6, queen, king g5. And white's best move, interestingly, to go f6, queen c5 check, and giving up the bishop playing king f7, because bishop d6 would be a draw with queen a7 perpetuate checks.
Wow. This is just like a real game. Like it could happen.
Yeah, it could be very easily, right? Exactly. So white goes king f7, and after queen f7, queen d5 check, king g7, takes, and queen e7 or queen d8.
And white wins here.
But of course, this is also kind of not simple because you still have to queen the pawn.
Right.
What is interesting these days, if we go back to knight c6, that of course even the weaker players can compose chess studies checking the engines and the table bases. And we've seen those also, that 1900 players can compose fantastic chess endings.
Right.
So after knight c6, king h7 is the best defense, not to allow the king over to g8.
Okay. But I can go to e8 or...
King e8 would be a draw because of queen e4.
Oh, because this falls in a check.
Because it's a check after f8.
Okay.
And then the idea is that black can play for a stalemate.
So...
After king e8, queen e4,
queen
f8, I think queen c6 simply, and then you just give up your queen, king e7, queen d7.
Right.
Okay? So king e7 is the move. And now it's very interesting that if now queen e4, I would suggest for our audience to stop and pause for a little time, because we gave the insights and the ideas that the stalemate pattern can give problems.
Right.
So let's see what is the winning move.
Okay. So you can't make a queen, I believe, because then it's a stalemate. The king is in the stalemate and black can just sack the queen. Queen e5.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. So you have to make...
So for this reason, the winning move is f8 rook.
Not even knight, because many people would think knight as it comes with a check.
If you go knight to promote on f8, then king h6. And they say it's not enough. If let's say f6, then black simply captures the... Because the problem is you can defend your pawn and the knight at the same time after king h6. So if you go f6, queen c6, and if f7, then black can just give a check on c5 and bishop d6, queen g5, and somehow he saves it.
Right.
So this is the problem for white.
So you have to make a rook here.
So you have to make a rook here, and then basically black is dead because you cannot defend against rook h8.
Wow. That's so pretty.
So this is also one of the things in endgames, that it shows how precise you have to be. And even when you think you're deadly winning, you still have to keep in focus because you can make sure that there are some tricky parts coming.
Right.
So this is why queen e4 does not work. And now queen c1.
This is the toughest part. No, when you're solving a study for a practical player, to look at these lines, these defenses, and then trying to work out a win in every case. I think, but it could
Exactly.
be an amazing form of training.
Yes, I mean, you see that there are positions and studies where you can more easily find the
Yes.
defensive options.
Right.
And there are studies like this one where it's not so easy that why queen c1 isn't better than queen e4, but it is because there are more options for white to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So in this position, if white goes f8 queen, more or less we know already what's coming. In some way or another, you start giving up your queen and it's going to be stalemate.
True.
Okay,
Okay.
exactly. So queen does not work, but what about the rook?
Yes, that was working last time.
Yeah, but the problem is that after rook, then white can, black can go, I think, queen c5. And if king f7, then be queen d5. And simply if you go back, then I go back, or king c6, then I take the knight with the check.
Right. Wow. Okay.
So f8 does not work. But now f8 knight works.
Time it's the knight.
And this is the knight, the Carlsen move in the game, probably, if we see it.
Right.
So if king h6, now the important thing is that the f5 pawn is not under attack. So white can go king d7 defending the knight, and then the material is too much. So white is winning. And if black goes king g8,
Right.
then white can go already, because it's not so easy to go away with the knight, but you can go f6.
And if I take on c, I can give a check, but then you would block this
bishop
time.
d6, and after queen c6, f7, and the game is over.
Okay, and he can also take here, but
checkmate.
What a beautiful
it's a nasty
finish.
one, right?
And each piece is doing a brilliant job of sort of controlling.
What a teamwork.
Yeah.
This is called the real teamwork. Every single piece has its value and great valuable task.
So beautifully done by Martin Minsky here. And also just for our viewers to see that endgame of Anand versus... no, this not this one.
No, this is not the one.
Second. Yeah, here I have it. It was...
Yeah, it was... This is the game, exactly.
E6 by Vishy, and then B4, E7 takes.
This was quite an amazing, and you see the patterns coming. You see there, of course, in mirror, we had the F pawns.
Yeah. And here is where everyone thought that the game would end in a draw, but Magnus had this idea of making a knight, and this is exactly how it ended. Wow.
Yeah, so you can see that it resembles so much the patterns of the other study which we just seen.
So beautiful. Okay, so next one, should we go to the one composed by Timman?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Jan Timman, who actually is a very unique chess personality, because he was at his peak the #3 player in the world, and now an amazing composer as well. So that's not very common.
Yes, Jan resembles me a little bit to Paul Banco, because Timman was also a very high player. Well, he was playing the World Championship title match, I think, in '93 versus Karpov.
Correct.
So he was a huge player, and he was the player from the West who stopped the Soviets at the time. And he was really so interesting player. He was so artistic. Also the way he looked, and also the way he lived, I think, and also at the chessboard.
Right.
And later on, I was fortunate to train with him.
Oh.
And he was visiting me in Hungary quite a few times in the mid 2000, like 2000, 2-3, up to 2005, 6, something like that. And I was going out sometimes to Amsterdam and being there. train. It was a great experience for him to meet him in more personal way and to train with him.
I was
He's
actually at Levitov Chess recently and I met him in person for the first time. And I was also preparing some positions for from his best games. And I had seen one game with you as well, which was very exciting. I'm sure you had many games with him, but there was one which was very nice. And I mean, he was a very aggressive player overall.
Yes, and he was a very well prepared player as well. And he's an author. He has many great chess books. I'm sure he's working on something right now as well. So he's one of the richest chess player, I think, with his ideas and artistic vision in chess out there.
Brilliant.
And he does make quite a bit of number of chess studies. And not only now, but also I think during his very active and very professional years when he was in the top. So this is something that
White to play. Yes.
I liked very much this one, because look at this. It's just a practical endgame which can come and stand on the board any minute.
100% right. And also it doesn't feel like white can win this because it's like equal material. Black king looks okay, it looks a little bit in danger, but there are hardly pieces to attack it.
Basically, yeah, let's face it, in an endgame, we know that king can be one of the most strongest attacker, right?
Right.
And here the king is on h2, attacking the h3, nothing wrong. Basically, the only thing can be a problem for black right now, that there is a pin, right? So the a6 rook is there unprotected, and the d6 bishop cannot be moving away. But it seems like there is nothing could go wrong. I mean, of course, the bishop could be playing bishop c7 or bishop e5. That's the only way when something could happen.
Right.
So let's see what white can really do here.
So if white loses the h3 pawn, it's already like king h3 and then there would be nothing. So I think the first move suggests itself, right? The move h4.
Well, h4 is a logical move, though you have to see what is the idea after black is capturing it, right?
True.
So, and especially after we know what is the idea behind it. So it's very interesting that when the king is on the edge of the board, it can get in trouble in very different ways. But it's a very, very nice way of showing it, that how unexpectedly that pattern can show up. Because let's see, face this, that if white would not have a pawn on h3, then there would be a checkmate on h6.
True.
But how can you get rid of your pawn on h3, right? So let's see h4.
You have to take it.
Black has to take it. And the idea is to go bishop g3.
Beautiful move. What a move. If bishop takes, rook hangs. Pawn takes, then rook h6 is mate. So
exactly. So what happens if king h3?
Right.
Because so we will look, yes, this is checkmate. So let's say king h3 is possibility, and now white can take on d6 with the rook or with the bishop. So I would ask our audience, what do they think, which is a better move? Bishop d6 or rook takes d6?
I would take it with the bishop, because I would say rook takes, there's a check and my bishop would fall and wouldn't go too much. Oh, there's bishop e1 back. Okay.
So exactly, you said it right, but bishop d6 most likely would be a draw for concrete problems, because black just goes rook b6, and now the g6 rook is in the pin, while white has an extra piece, but white is losing the b2 pawn, and without a pawn, white cannot win the game. This is why after king h3, rook d6, rook a1 check, bishop e1, and this is how white can convert his extra piece. And then we still have a pawn on b2, so white is winning.
Beautiful.
Okay, so we go back after bishop g3 check. So there is nothing left for black than to take on g3 and give up the rook.
Okay, so I take.
But now it's interesting that it's not so easy for white at all, because black can go bishop e5. And now white has to be careful how to win this endgame, because if, let's say, black can put his bishop on d4 and can come out with the king from g2,
Right.
then from h2, then the game is going to be a draw most likely, because white has not enough resource.
Right.
So now white has to be playing very precise. He should be able to somehow to block and stop the king coming out from h2. So the move is rook e6, trying to chase the bishop.
Okay.
So black cannot take on b2 because rook e2, right?
Right.
So black goes, if black goes bishop
d4 makes sense, yeah.
Then rook g6.
And if
the thing is, if we go back for one move, why rook g6 immediately was not working.
Okay.
The problem is after rook g6, c4 is possible.
And this b2 pawn becomes a permanent problem.
It's a problem. So if rook g4 now, you go king h3, and you don't have enough time to capture the pawn on c4 because the b2 is attacked.
Right.
So the reason is this, why white plays rook e6 first, and if bishop d4, only then white goes rook g6. So after rook g6, you cannot go c4 because rook g4.
Ooh,
And the b2 pawn is a taboo because rook g2. Or you move back with the bishop, I capture on c4, and still the b2 pawn is a taboo because your king is standing on the second rank.
Beautiful. Okay. Very subtle.
So precision is extremely important in this endgame. So after rook e6, black goes with his bishop to h8. But still it's important to chase the bishop. So white goes rook e8. Again, if black goes to d4, then white can go rook g8.
Right.
And the thing is, the important thing is that the king cannot come out. And if, let's say, black goes h3, then I go already b3. So my pawn gets into safety. And later on, white can win this game because white can go around with his king to f3. He can go with the rook on the h file, and then king g4 to capture the pawn.
Right.
And already that's a winning position.
Wonderful.
So after rook e8, black plays bishop f6.
Okay. And now?
And now rook f8. So the thing is that white is really chasing the bishop, and the bishop seems to be having not enough squares. So white wants to force the bishop to d4 in order to go to the g8, to cut the king, and then to stabilize with b3. And for poor black's bishop, he cannot do anything.
Has to go to e5, right?
It goes to e5. Now rook f5, still moving and chasing. So black cannot do anything because if you don't play bishop d4, I'm capturing already c5, and you just cannot take on b2. So after bishop d4, now we know already that rook g5 wins, but actually rook f3 wins as well.
Rook f3. And c4, there is still rook f4.
It's always the same. Yeah, it's always the same.
So cool. So cool.
Yeah,
this is so instructive, right? Like you just learn how the rook can dominate a bishop and also sideline the king, and very instructive.
And you know, it's very difficult, I think, during the game to discover that what is the important thing in this position. That actually, if you have the time to cut the king in one way or another, f3 or g, and play b3, then your position is just winning.
Right.
So first you have to discover that what should be your goal. And after that, you can figure out how or if you can really make it happen. You have enough time. And here, if you understand it, that you have to force the black bishop to d4 in order to be able to reach this.
True.
So it's a complicated one. Besides that, it was a very nice starting element with h4, bishop g3.
Yeah, this is so pretty and so well done. And also it's inspired from a real game which happened between Yu Yangi and Duda and Yu Yangi.
Yes.
And this was the position.
And black played king h3.
Oh, and this happened. Wow. So amazing. So amazing.
Yeah.
I wonder how these composers would be looking at games. Like, I mean, me as a practical player and so on, I just look at a game and I'm like, oh, nice tactic. They must be thinking, oh, can we compose something out of it?
But I think, I mean, I have it sometimes that I see a position, I see an idea, and I say, wow, this would be so nice in a composition. But I'm not doing it. Maybe later on with some time I will do that watching some great games, and when I see patterns like this, trying to implement it into beautiful chess study. But so far I just realize it, how beautiful it would be. But I have some great composers who are happy to form it into a beautiful composition.
True. Okay, Judith, so this one is by Stefan Neelsen, another very famous composer. But I have seen that his compositions are so amazing, so deep. Often the critical move is on like move number 5 or 6 and so complex.
Exactly. This one, I have to admit that this is not such a practical game because you're most likely cannot imagine why the knight is standing on h8 and king on c4 while everything is threatening by black g3, the discovered check, queen h8, e takes f5, discovered check. But I just like it so much, the idea how it's possible to still win with the rook down, and actually it will be even more down in material, that I thought I'm happy to share this also. And actually it was an inspiration also from a game, surprisingly enough.
Okay, so let's have a look here. White to play and white has to win. But here it's not even clear what the first move should be.
Well, there is not much of an option, I think, because I think you have to start with a check in anyway. Well, of course, you could consider that f6.
Yeah, f6 is
maybe. Yes.
But then you have this bishop here, so maybe e5 could become a problem.
Yeah. I believe that's not a bad option. And then bishop f7, maybe.
Yeah.
Of course, but maybe be g3. G3, king has to go.
G3, there's also a check from here.
Yeah, there is a check there.
But also here you can even take the knight, yes, and somehow.
No, you can't. Queen a8 and h8 and f8 queen.
Oh, queen a8, king g7, and queen. Oh no!
f8. Oh.
I was about to make a queen, but it was not going.
Okay, then this is.
So maybe this works, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, unexpected surprise.
So in the game, I mean, in the main answer, the starts with check.
Check. Now rook e8. Queen a3 check. So if now rook e7, then already f6. So instead of rook e7, black goes king g7, f6, king takes h8.
So you lost the knight, okay.
So finally we gave up the knight, but there is a reason to it why white can do this.
Wow. Okay, and white to play, and they can think.
And now white to play, so we expect our audience to pause for just a little, but maybe they see immediately the move.
Beautiful move here.
Queen f8, an amazing move, I believe, because the thing is that queen g7 is not stoppable.
Right.
Unless black is giving a check or captures it. So now black goes, there are several moves. If e5, white just goes out king c3.
Right. So this is winning.
So white is hiding. The other option is if rook takes, it becomes simple because g7, king goes out, knight with the check, king h8, knight g6,
Beautiful.
and knight takes h4. White has a huge material advantage, passed pawns, etc.
Right.
So black has to look for something more creative and some counterplay. This is why black goes g3 check.
Okay.
And now again, white has to think a little bit that what is the best move. Already the idea is that to consider what are the alternatives, what are the candidates move in this position.
Because now this, all of this is possible, yes?
Exactly, but also you can go with the pawns f4 or d4, right?
Right.
And nothing is obvious at first that which should be the move. But the main move is f4.
F4.
And you will see why is the reason. Queen takes f4.
Okay.
King c3. And now again, if we look at it, if rook f8, then again still the queen is standing on the wrong place because takes with the knight, knight g6, knight f4, and you stop the g2 pawn while you're threatening with your king d4, e5, and also to play g6.
Right.
But let's say if bishop f7 to stop g6, you just go king d4.
Right. It's winning.
Okay, so this is still not working for black. He can't capture the queen, so what can he do?
Right.
He can go queen e5 check.
Okay.
And after queen e5, white goes king c2, still hiding around the pawns. Queen c5 check is not possible because the queen on f8.
Yeah.
So black takes on f8, g7, king h7, knight, of course. But you see that there are several spots where we took back the queen. The first line was on h4,
Right.
the other one on f4, and now it's going to be on e5. So this is why I love the knights, because it's just jumping all around and sometimes it just catches the queen. So after knight e5, it seems like white is winning already, but still we shouldn't forget that there is a passed pawn on g3, right?
Right.
So black can try to play bishop f7, which is a very nice way of getting out with the bishop, because king d1 is not possible to g2, knight f3, and bishop h5, pinning the knight.
Ooh. Wow.
So it's never so simple as people think it
And
is.
knight f3 means king comes up and already some trouble.
Exactly, or knight f3, bishop h5 first, I think. And then. So white has to be smart and sharp. So white takes, knight takes f7.
Has to now g2. So you are about to queen.
g2. And now you can go g6. And after king takes g6, knight e5 check. After king f6, knight f3, and white is just reaching back and stop the pawn on g2.
I was wondering, why did we play f4 and why didn't we go directly here? Because now...
Because gf2.
Oh, that's the point. Okay. Oops, sorry, not queen, knight. King here, here. And this move. So we needed to sort of remove that, and that's why f4 was played. Wow.
And in the last final position, if we would go back just for a second, please. Takes. Exactly. Knight. Yes. Takes. g6. Takes. It's also very important that black cannot come to f5 because of knight h4 check. So this is essential that white just has the time to bring his king to king d1, e2, f2 and grab the pawn.
Amazing.
Yes, amazing how many patterns and ideas in it, right? That
was too good. And also, I loved this position because this is such a wonderful calculation exercise, right? You can give this and someone can think for half an hour and or maybe less. Maybe you would take lesser
Yes.
time, but
It depends who is solving it.
true. Okay.
Yeah.
And this one was inspired by an actual game, which was this one between Sumets and Karen Gregorian.
Yeah, and somehow at some point, Queen E1 was an idea, which was missed.
And Black won this. So
Maybe some moves ago before. Yeah, instead of Queen F2. Here, Queen E1 was
Queen
possible.
E1. And so takes and this F2,
Exactly.
King G2,
Exactly.
and make
And
a
then
queen or a knight. Both would. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, some people say that, come on, studies, it's not practical, I can never use it. But you see that there are situations when you can use it and it comes in handy.
Right.
I discovered such patterns.
Okay, so the next one here is by Baslov, Yuri. This one is a very practical looking position, but knights are always very tricky.
Knights are always very tricky, that's true. So what we see here, Black is giving a hard time for White mainly because of the F4 passed pawn. So how to catch the F pawn with the knight. And at the same time, for the moment, the C4 pawn also can become a passed pawn if it has the time to be pushed C3. So the first move is very obvious in this position. White goes knight E6 check.
Right.
King E3. And White wants to just get the F4 pawn eliminated by playing knight F4. So obviously Black cannot take the knight on F4 because B takes C4, and then very quickly the B7 pawn will be exchanged as well. So White makes a very easy draw. But after knight F4...
so this one, White should play for a draw, yes? This position.
This position, White is playing for a draw.
Draw, okay. So not a win here. It is a draw.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So knight e6, king here takes, and of course if king takes, then this is a draw. Easy one.
Yes. So Black wants to play for a win, and this is why bishop b3.
Okay.
So Black is still dreaming to have a passed pawn to queen, either the c pawn or if a takes b3, which we play not now, but a little later. So White goes knight d5 check first. King d4, a takes b3. C takes b3.
And now it's going down, yeah.
And now Black has this passed pawn only 2 squares away from queening. So there is not much left for White, and try to think how to stop and catch the pawn, which is knight c7. Is a move which seems to be that White can catch it after b2, knight b5, and knight a3.
Wow.
So this is the reason Black is not pushing the pawn immediately, but plays king c4. Because if in this position White would just rush back with knight b5, Black would not push the pawn, but capture the pawn king b4, and only after that to push with b2. So White cannot stop the pawn. So after king c4, you see that the knight is like very much being away from the actions happening in the third and the first rank. So White goes king a5. It's possible to play. And the reason is because White is very clever, and after b2 has the idea to go knight b5.
And if you queen, there's a check and it's lost. Okay.
Exactly. So Black does not want to give this satisfaction to White to go knight a3 and capture the queen. So Black goes king b3. and being happy that, okay, the white knight cannot catch the pawn, so I'm going to have a queen. So there is only one thing to think of, right? Just give it check,
Check,
and
yeah.
let's see what's happening after that. So knight d4, and now
King
black,
a2, yes.
king a2. Another question is I would like to pose
Yeah.
for the audience, and I would have the question that, do you think there is only one draw or more draw? But the real question is whether is knight e2 the move to be able to play knight c3 after black queens, or knight b5?
And
Because
both are coming to c3.
both moves are having the exact same idea, right? So after giving a little thought, then we come back.
Okay. I'm not so clear which one is the move because knight b5 also there's no real way in which the king can stop. Like if you go king b3 again, I'll go knight d4.
Exactly. This is why after knight b5, there is a fantastic move. Black can play b6 check. And if you take the pawn, then already I can come back with the king b3. And after knight d4, I can take on b4 or go king a4, doesn't matter. Basically, I cover the important squares and you cannot stop me queening on b1.
Right.
So after b6, still everything is fine because you just go king a4, and after queen, you go knight c3, right?
Yeah.
But there is a small problem that instead of b1 queen, you push b1 knight.
And now the knight has to move and it's a mate. Wow.
And the knight has to move and knight c3 check.
This is so pretty.
Isn't it beautiful?
It's so nice. So nice. Amazing.
So after king a2, the only draw is knight e2. For this reason.
And now the same thing like b6. This time you don't take and you go king a4.
Exactly. The most important thing is that you keep the control and defend the b4 pawn.
Wow.
So after knight e2, black can still try.
That's always there. It never. The tries are always there.
No, it never ends. So black can still try and play king b1.
Right.
So black goes king b1, white goes knight c3 check, king c2, and then back to b5.
Now
so it means that you can go to b5 with your knight only when the king on c2,
right.
While you have to go knight e2 when the king is on a2.
True.
And here after knight b5, king b3, it goes all around. Again, knight d4, king a2, knight e2. So this is the circle that the king is going around, and the knight goes knight e2, knight d4, knight b5, knight c3.
So wonderfully done by Basilov. This was, and it's inspired by a game, quite an old one. I don't know if you were aware of this game by Laszlo Szabo versus Attila Gross-Peter.
Yes, I was not aware of it, but actually this end game is very typical, right? To have a5 breakthrough. And if you look at it, how it went, e5 is not yet the move, but knight d2 has to be deflecting the knight first, and only after capturing a5 works and takes b6. And this is a very typical pattern after b6, knight e5, that the king has to be moving front of the pawn by playing king b8 and only reaching to c7 this way.
Amazing. Because if the king comes from behind, it would not work. Like from here
and knight d7, and after king c7, knight c5. So actually black is winning. And the idea is that after king b8, if you go knight d7, king c8.
C8. Wow. Okay.
So there is, even until the very, very last moment, you can't feel that the point is in your pocket.
It's like the original game itself was study like, and the study was made from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, so knight c6 and here black white one. Okay. Wow, we are reaching the second last position. This one I think is one of your favorites. It's by Amartya Avni. And when I was growing up, I read a few of his books. They were very, very interesting. And it's so nice that he's also sent in a composition here.
Yeah, I mean, on this one, I have to admit that it's not so obvious that why is it so practical having the knight on h8. So if I think about it, what could be the last move of black? I'm not very sure what I'm saying. Let's say rook takes h3, and it was a queen. But still, I like the pattern very much. What's in this, both the attacking idea while also the defensive idea, and this is also a position which is going to be a draw because it goes back and forth. So again, the understanding of the position and the fighting spirit, and then to never give up, and the defense is very much part of this endgame.
Right.
So basically, it's clear that if white takes on h8, black just captures it back. Black has extra pawns, extra material. So it is a natural move to capture the knight, but as we discussed it before, don't capture everything immediately, which is possible to take. So this is the case here as well. And white goes, the first move is d7.
Okay. So I'm queening.
Because there is an idea, rook d3.
Okay.
Black stops it. But white has a funny idea because it's so tight in the king side for black that white can sacrifice the knight on d5.
And black has a choice, but has to take with the rook.
Has to take with the rook. Then white goes d8, queen, giving up.
What? You give up the most important thing.
And now bishop e5.
Oh.
So you think, wow, white is winning. The knight can't be escaping from there because the white king is on black square and the bishop cannot sneak away, giving a check, and the knight is out.
Right.
So this is the moment where black has to think and discover what kind of defensive idea there is.
Okay.
And after pausing the video and finding out what is the only defensive idea for black,
right,
let's go and show it. Rook d1.
Beautiful. Because if takes, the bishop will move out with a check, and then the knight moves out and white is gone.
White is gone because of the pawn and the piece down.
Right.
Material down.
So
after rook d1, white never goes on white square. So goes king f2.
But I can keep checking, yes. Here.
Exactly, rook f1, king g3. And you go, let's say, rook g1. But in this position, you know, it's not so simple how to do it. Because king f2 or king h2, I may ask the question. And king f2 is losing. And the reason is because after king f2, rook g2.
And I have to go to the e file, right?
And you have to go to the e file, which after I go rook e2, and either you take and bishop c4 check, knight f7, or I take the bishop on e5.
Right. So you can't go there. You have...
So you have to go king h2, being the best move. And after rook g2, king g1, king h1.
Oh, yes. And the king is saved by the black piece from a check.
Safe in the corner.
Okay. So...
Okay, so if you go rook h1 check,
yeah,
then I go back king g3. You go rook h3 check. I go king f2. But you cannot push me to the e5. You go rook g3, rook f3, king g1. rook g3. And again, I can go wrong by playing king f2, but then the same rook g2, right? So we go king h2. So this is how the king is chased by the rook. But one thing is important, that you should not allow black to push you to white squares.
Right. So pretty, so beautiful. And this is a draw. And actually, this is, I don't know, this is Wedberg Kuczynski that he's written, but there was a very similar game between Svidler and Nihal from the World Rapid Team Championship recently, which has the same theme of the Mad Rook that happened. So yeah, very, very nice. There's only this one small point that after Rook F3, you have to go King G1, right? If King G2, it seems like there's no check here. But I think black can block with the rook and then come out.
And check.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
It's also beautiful. Exactly.
Right. Okay. And this was inspired by the game of Wedberg and Kuczynski.
Yes.
So just to show that.
Yeah, actually, it's a nice saving. It's also quite a nice puzzle itself.
So white to play here. And Wedberg found this very nice move, rook c8. But king b6.
Rook c6. King a7. Rook a6. King b8. Rook a8.
Nice.
It's nice chasing the king around.
And the last one that we are going to look at now is inspired from your own game.
Yes, indeed.
And this is done by Pavel Arestov, who's composed it. And let's have a look at the composition.
And Daniel Keith. It's a composition.
It's by two people, Keith Daniel and Pavel Arestov. Okay.
Yes. So I like this because also because it was the game was my game was the inspiration for the composers.
Right.
But also I believe this is hunting down the professional chess players when we talk about bishop rook, rook bishop versus rook, because you can make mistakes so easily, not win the winning position and not drawing the drawing position, that I thought I would highlight the importance of that.
Right.
And here the black bishop, the white bishop on black squares is in danger, so it has to be moved away. And of course, what white has to be careful that the d5 pawn will not fall off.
True.
So this is the reason this bishop c7 is the starting move. So if black goes rook d1, then white is just pushing d6. The pawn protected, so the game is completely over.
Right.
So what is the idea for black to still try to capture the pawn? Black
D6.
can go d6.
Yeah. Bishop takes.
After this, bishop takes d6. And now black is going rook h5.
Mm-hmm. But it seems like I can give a check, no? Rook c5 and...
Yeah, if you go rook c5, that's how the study goes. But I would like to say also that, for example, bishop e5 could be something you consider. But after bishop e5, rook takes e5, d6, rook d5, king c7, king b4, and after rook c1, b5.
It's a draw, yeah.
And it's a draw. So this is not the good move for the moment. This is why your move rook c5.
Okay.
If king b6, then white comes out from that not very good place, the king position, by playing king c8. So black goes not king b6, but goes king a6.
Right.
And now it seems like the position is completely winning, but at the same time, we have to understand that the reason is black goes to a6 to threaten to play b6 with the pawn, pushing away the rook from c5, and then the d5 pawn is vulnerable again.
True, true.
King c7.
Okay.
b6.
And it seems like we are going to lose the pawn.
We are going to be losing the pawn, but we have to understand that the king is on this side for black. But in what circumstances we should be entering into the rook bishop versus rook? Okay, and an extra pawn for black. So I can ask two questions, two move suggestion: rook c1 or rook c2.
Okay. Oh, that's
Of course, it's very difficult to calculate it, but I just want to highlight how important it is to understand the little nuances in this position as well. Because
Right.
one is winning, the other one is drawing.
And it looks so difficult because let's say wherever we move our rook, black will take on d5, and then king c6 with the idea of rook a1 mate will be met with rook a5. So it's not like there's a ready-made mate.
Exactly. So what is the intention? What is the intuition tells you?
To go the farthest
know
away.
To go to c1.
C1.
The
To go to the
possible.
farthest possible is my intuition.
Yeah, but the problem is that actually rook c2 is the winning move.
Wow. Okay.
And the reason is, we'll see very shortly.
So
Because
here,
after rook c2,
take.
black takes rook d5, king c6, rook a5. I mean, rook b5 would be possible, doesn't matter. I can force with
Check,
rook a2,
yeah.
rook b2, right? So I go rook b2. And right now, the question is whether rook on b2 stands better or b1 stands better.
How does it matter?
And the situation is that if the rook stands on b1, then rook a2 is a draw.
Oh,
But that the rook is on b2 and black goes rook a1
okay.
is losing because rook takes b6, king a5.
So king
And
a7. Okay, king a5.
King a7 is losing to...
Oh my god, king a5. Okay, we come to king a, but this is the point that after check and the king would have saved the a2 rook. Oh,
Exactly.
wow. That is unbelievable.
Exactly.
And if king here, then
If king a7, then I think...
this is that typical rook bishop rook position, like the Philidor win, right? Something like.
Yeah, this is a win, but I have to see. Bishop c5, of course, is not a win because rook a6. So I think we have to bring the...
Maybe first a check and then do the bishop c5, like here maybe.
Yes, here bishop c5 wins, exactly. Yes, you're correct.
But maybe...
And I think if you go king a8, then rook b8, king a7, rook g8, no? No, maybe not, because rook a6, king c7, rook a5.
Rook g8, rook a6.
Rook a6 and rook a5.
Right.
No, maybe not rook b8. Maybe we have to go...
You can...
What about bishop c5?
Yeah, exactly, bishop c. But I thought check and then king bishop b6, right?
Bishop b6 and rook h7.
Okay. Right. Yeah, maybe now it's... You just move the rook and it's mate, no, on that side. Maybe rook d1.
Rook d1.
But now rook back somewhere, and then the threat is to give a check, let's say here or here, and then check and mate. So maybe rook.
Yes. And if rook a1, rook h3.
Yes.
Oh no, rook a1, king c7. Sorry, not rook h3, king c7.
Kings.
Yeah.
Okay, that's also winning. Yes, rook b8. Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this game was an inspiration of my game, which
I'm very curious to see your game now, because did you have to choose between those two squares?
I think I did.
So Ah, okay. So this was your game. And
Yeah, this
Dominguez
was,
here played King A3.
and Rook H2 was the bad move.
Ah, you gave this check.
Rook H2 was a bad move. I had to go Rook B8. Because it's important that you really keep the king on A2.
And then Rook B7 here to force Rook to go to
Yes.
A8. Wow.
Yeah.
But you did win this game at the end.
Yeah, but it was miracle. It was 112 moves, and it was so important because this was the classical game. The first game I lost, it was a knockout World Cup, and this was I had to win on demand, and it was a very complicated game. And then I won this, and then we started to play the playoffs.
Wow.
And we were going back and forth. We played altogether, I think, 8 games.
Really?
I won, and I passed to the next stage of the event.
Wow. I remember that World Cups are, I think, very important, right, in your career. Also, the time when you made a comeback and played with Gelfand, I think, in one of the World Cups. That was also
Yes,
a very. You had lost the first game, and with White, you played E4, E5, Bishop C4, and had.
yes,
Yes.
yeah. That was one of the nicest game I played.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah.
But Judith, this was tremendous going through these puzzles. It's tremendous that you are able to bring together these positions, and of course these brilliant artists, who chess artists, whom we should call, are sending in such beautiful positions for the global chess festival. I think it brings out the beauty of chess in such a big way.
I do hope that others can also appreciate, and I think it's really great that ChessBase India, you Sagar, give this platform for me to show it to the
My
wider
pleasure.
audience and share it with the talent and enjoy together the beauty of chess.
It's my pleasure, Judith, and thank you so much once again for giving your time right now. We almost went through 90 minutes of this, and it was very, very enjoyable for me.
Thank you very much.